I love superheroes. Let me be more specific.
Avengers!
I love superhero movies.
Assemble.
Superheroes have been a big deal in our culture for the past decades. They went from being the bully's reason to mess with the nerd kid in the 70s and 80s to the most mainstream form of entertainment nowadays. It's good to see this evolution, since I was one of the victims of such bullying, and it really makes me happy to see kids and adults embracing superheroes and being proud of them. This is a good thing because most characters in comic books are the underdog and they always stand up for those in need. Peter Parker sees himself in the weak and mortal civilians, and I see myself in Peter Parker. Superheroes are a good and positive impact on culture, not only because of the whole standing up for yourself thing, but because of representation of gender and race. This video essay will go over the history and conventions of superhero genre and its most famous subgenres, while making a big emphasis on their impact in culture and how it has helped women and minorities to empower. So, where to begin? In comic books, of course. Superhero stories began in literature. Their most known format is the comic books, which has been the source material of many, if not all, modern-day superheroes. As Blair Davies says in his book, Movie Comics, quote, "The medium of comics has a rich history, one that is certainly older than that of television and equally as long-standing as film. Looking at how comic books and strips historically intersected with movies and television allows for new insights into all three forms, in terms of the unique ways in which each medium constructs its imagery and in how specific films, programs, and comics are consumed and understood." In the 30s and 40s, they started to be adapted into television with hits like Mandrake the Magician, Adventures of Captain Marvel, and Batman. However, the big special effects heavy blockbuster superhero film began in the 70s and 80s with Richard Donner's Superman in 1978 and Tim Burton's Batman in 1989. Due to their success in box office, Hollywood got their eyes into the genre on the 90s but failed miserably on their attempt on recreating them. The Crow and Blade are just some examples of some unsuccessful tries. However, the beginning of the 21st century brought some amazing films like Bryan Singer's X-Men in 2000, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in 2002, and Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins in 2005. Today, it's undeniable that there is an oversaturation of superhero films and TV shows. Just the MCU is conformed of 27 films in the last 11 years and has 13 more confirmed projects underway. The Boys, The Umbrella Academy, Jupiter's Legacy, and Loki are just some examples of superhero TV series that are airing simultaneously. The market loves them and is asking for more. Talking about the underdog, let's go over some key generic traits and conventions. First of all, the origin story. As previously mentioned, it is typical for superhero films to spend at least a whole film on how the protagonist became the superhero, whether it is through gaining powers or just getting him or herself into a suit. The origin is usually tragic and can be either the loss of a family member, loved one, like Batman in the Dark Knight trilogy, or an experiment gone wrong, like Bruce Banner in Hulk. Another common topic is morality. A lot of these films highlight the public opinion on superheroes. Some of them hate them and consider their actions violent and unethical, while others support them and find safety in them. This is touching on The Incredibles. They make the protagonist question if what they're doing is right or wrong. Also, justice and the justice system in general is inefficient in these movies and in real life. Criminals always get their way out of trouble in their world. Superheroes exist because the police and or the justice system can't do or doesn't want to do anything about crime. That is why a hero steps up and does something about the situation, like in Kick-Ass, the underdog. The protagonist is a loser in the world. They are seen as unattractive, unathletic, and just your stereotypical nerd. However, their superhero life is completely opposite. People love them, they find them attractive and admire them. Usually, if it is a male protagonist, he will get the pretty girl at the end of the film and give the movie a whole message of beauty is on the inside, giving the audience false expectations. A great example of this is Peter Parker and Mary Jane in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. So it is common that in sequels, we see this common topic of teamwork. Together, they make the best of the other and end up saving the day. This is the case of Zack Snyder's Justice League, where Batman teams up with Superman after being enemies in the previous films, Batman vs. Superman, and the case of the Avengers. Now let's go over some major subgenres, and here is where things start getting interesting. First, we got the anti-hero film. They're on the gray side of justice. Most of these characters are criminals who take justice in their own hands. However, the audience still relates to them on a certain level. They end up saving the day. This is a case of the Joker, Deadpool, and most recently, the Suicide Squad. We got horror superhero films like Brightburn or The New Mutants, where the powers of the hero are used for evil, they're intimidating and make the characters fear them. We also got the spy superhero movies, where they center around espionage and trying to solve a mystery with style. They're action-packed, have science fiction gadgets and lots of plot twists. We also have the Western with Logan, and the animated superhero films like The Incredibles, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Megamind. The two subgenres that really interest me the most are the feminist superhero movies and the race superhero movies. Feminist superhero movies, the film's subplot revolves around the protagonist's gender and its role in society. They send an empowering message and become icons in the feminist movement. This is the case of Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman. Again, the main focus of race superhero movies is, well, race. And this is the case of Black Panther, and how they talk about colonialism, and most recently Shang-Chi. Is this inclusion enough? This is a question I want to answer in this video essay. Well, yes, the comics throughout time have been a reflection of the changing political climate. The recent inclusion of a more diverse cast on screen portrays a cultural shift in those conversations around inclusion and diversity from the real world to the fictional world. The good news is that inclusion feels authentic, rather than simply having a diverse cast to get high viewership. When we take a look at the most recent Disney Plus TV series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we realize that the main topic of the series is systemic racism. Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, takes on the role of Captain America. This leads to a lot of conversation about racism in America and how audiences and people in the series will react to him taking this mantle.
I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes. What don't I understand? Every time I pick this thing up, I know there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it. Even now, here, I feel it. The stares, the judgment. And there's nothing I can do to change it. Yet I'm still here. No super serum, no blonde hair or blue eyes. The only power I have is that I believe we can do better.
Black Panther also touches on really deep topics like colonialism, and Shang-Chi is also a nice refresher in the genre, since usually Asian characters in the MCU have been portrayed as villains. Eternals also brings members of the LGBTQ community and Latino, Asian, Black representation. However, if we go to female representation, we can see that despite recent improvement, representation of women in superhero films has a long way to go. A study by the Women's Media Center that examined gender representation in sci-fi and superhero films from 2009 to 2018 concluded out of 211 films, just 29, which is a 14%, featured female solo leads. The lack of women in prominent roles sends a troubling message to audiences. Superheroes are regarded as strong, righteous, and honorable people who save the world. When men predominantly play such characters, this ultimately plays into society's perpetual misogyny. As Jenni Kinnunen in her essay, Badass Bitches, Damsels in Distress or Something in Between, she brings attention to the fact that women representation film went from being the damsel in distress to being the leads of their own movies. Most recently, Scarlett Johansson in Black Widow. Superhero films have had a great cultural impact, especially in the recent years. Speaking broadly, the most notable impact is in the market. The MCU alone has made over $14 billion in the last 10 years, and they have sold not only tickets, but toys, clothing, coffee cups, you name it. However, superhero movies allow audiences to receive deep messages subliminally and not thrown at their faces like many dramas do. For instance, the X-Men franchise is a great metaphor of the LGBTQ+ community and how society oppresses them. The Joker touches on topics of mental health and how treating someone better could change their lives. Superhero films have shaped a big part of today's youth, having them cosplay at every premiere or convention. So the future looks bright for women and minorities representation in the superhero genre. So it is good to say that it's not only me who enjoys the genre and who sees myself in the superheroes on screen. Nowadays, women and minorities can see themselves just as I found support on Peter Parker. So I'm pleased to say that not only I love superhero movies, we all do.